I picked up what I thought was just another Uber ride, and 5 minutes later I realized I had a wanted criminal in the back seat. You know how people always joke that driving for Uber is like playing roulette with strangers? Well, I used to laugh at that too, until the night it stopped being funny. That night started just like any other. I'd finished my regular 9 to 5 at a warehouse in Detroit, grabbed some gas station coffee, and turned on my Uber app around 7:30 in the evening. Driving Uber wasn't my dream job, but it paid off my student loans faster than just working one gig. Plus, I actually liked the unpredictability: students heading to clubs, drunk couples arguing in the back seat, business guys taking late-night rides from the airport. It was like people watching, but on wheels. The first few rides of the night were boring. A guy to Walmart, 2 girls to Taco Bell, some college kids going to a house party. Easy money, no drama. Around 10 p.m., I was thinking about calling it a night, but then my phone buzzed with another request. The pickup location wasn't far, a side street near an old liquor store. The name on the request just said J, no picture. That wasn't super unusual, but something about it already felt off. Still, money's money. I drove over. When I pulled up, the street was nearly empty. One flickering streetlight lit up cracked sidewalks and a boarded up laundromat across the street. Then I saw him. A man stepped out from the shadows, pulling his hoodie tighter around his face. He looked over both shoulders before opening the back door of my car. Now, I've had nervous passengers before. Some people just don't like riding with strangers. But this guy, he wasn't just nervous. He was scanning the street like he was expecting someone to jump out. "Uber?" he asked, his voice low, like he was checking a password. "Yeah, hop in," I said, trying to sound casual. He slid into the back seat and immediately slouched low, like he didn't want anyone to see him. The smell hit me first: sweat, smoke, and something sharp, like metal. His hands shook a little as he fiddled with the seatbelt but didn't bother fastening it. My stomach tightened. I told myself not to judge. Maybe he'd just had a rough day. "Where we headed?" I asked. "Just drive. I'll tell you," he muttered, keeping his eyes on the side mirror. Okay, that was weird. Usually people type in an address, but sometimes they don't, and I didn't want to piss off a customer. I pulled away from the curb. The silence in the car was heavy. Normally, I'll make small talk to cut the tension: sports, weather, whatever, but with him, I didn't dare. He kept glancing out the window, drumming his fingers on his thigh. The streetlights flashed across his face, and that's when I noticed his eyes wide, bloodshot, jittery, like he hadn't slept in days. After about 5 minutes, my nerves were buzzing. I checked the rearview mirror to sneak another look at him. That's when I noticed his phone on the seat next to him. It buzzed with a notification, the screen lighting up for just a second, and I swear, my heart stopped. It was a news alert. I couldn't read all of it while driving, but I saw enough: a mugshot that looked exactly like the man sitting in my back seat. The headline had the word "wanted" in all caps. I nearly swerved into the next lane. I forced myself to keep driving, gripping the wheel until my knuckles turned white. My brain was racing. No way I had a wanted guy in my car, right? Maybe it was a coincidence. Maybe he just looked like the guy. But then he leaned forward, his face half lit by the streetlights, and the resemblance was undeniable. Same sharp jaw, same tired eyes. I swallowed hard. He noticed me glancing. "Problem?" he asked, his voice sharp now, suspicious. "No, man. All good." I lied quickly, trying to keep my voice steady, but inside, panic was clawing at my chest. And here's the thing: in that moment, I didn't know what scared me more: the idea of having a criminal in my car, or the thought that he might realize I recognized him. Because if he did, I had no idea what the hell he might do next. Now imagine what happens next. But before that, smash that like button and hit subscribe, cause the craziest part is just getting started. The ride dragged on in silence, and every second felt like an hour. My hands gripped the steering wheel so hard, I thought I might snap it in half. I kept trying to breathe evenly, but my chest was tight, my heart hammering in my ears. I wanted to believe I was imagining things, that the man in my back seat wasn't the same guy whose face had just popped up on that news alert. But denial only lasts so long when you're trapped in a car with someone who looks exactly like the mugshot under the word "wanted." Finally, I forced myself to break the silence. "So, long night?" I asked, trying to sound casual. He didn't answer right away. Then, slowly, he leaned forward just enough for me to see his face in the rearview mirror. His eyes bloodshot, suspicious, locked onto mine. "Drive faster," he muttered. I pressed the gas a little harder, but my brain was screaming, drive faster where? He still hadn't given me a destination. My GPS was blank, the little arrow just floating on the map. Where do you need to go? I asked carefully. Just head north, he said, his voice low, clipped. I'll tell you when to turn. That was not normal, at all. Every instinct I had was telling me to ditch this ride, pull over, and bolt. But what then? Leave him in my car? What if he got violent? What if he had a weapon? I glanced in the mirror again. He was watching the windows, scanning every car that passed us like he was expecting someone to follow. He tapped his foot restlessly, then muttered under his breath, "Cops everywhere tonight." My stomach dropped. I wanted to laugh it off, pretend I hadn't heard. But then he leaned closer, his voice sharp. "You're not gonna talk to them, right?" I forced a laugh. "Talk to who?" "The cops. You're not one of those people who runs their mouth, right?" My throat went dry. "Nah, man. I'm just driving." He sat back again, but I didn't feel any safer. If anything, the tension doubled. Then it got worse. About 15 minutes into the ride, I noticed flashing lights up ahead. A patrol car pulled over on the side of the road. Just a traffic stop. Nothing unusual. But my passenger stiffened instantly. He pulled his hoodie further over his face, ducking down low. "Keep going," he hissed. "Don't slow down." I obeyed. My palms were slick on the wheel. The patrol car was just a blip, a normal part of the city at night. But to him, it was life or death. And then, as we passed, he whispered something that chilled me. "If they pull us over, you don't know me." That was it. No explanation, no joke, just a warning. The next few miles were torture. I kept thinking about the news notification I'd seen. A man wanted for armed robbery, last seen in Detroit. A dangerous suspect. And here he was, breathing in the back of my damn car. My phone buzzed suddenly, making me jump. A text notification from Uber support. My eyes flicked down. "Remember, if you encounter dangerous passengers, call 911 immediately." I almost laughed. How the hell was I supposed to call the cops with him sitting right there, staring holes into the back of my head? The buzzing must have caught his attention, because he leaned forward again. "Who's texting you?" "Just Uber. Promotions. You know, discounts for gas." I lied quickly. He stared for a beat too long, then sank back into the seat. My nerves were shredded. I tried to focus on the road, but my brain was spiraling. What if he notices I recognize him? What if he thinks I'll betray him? Then he did something that nearly made me piss myself. He pulled out a knife. Not big, not flashy, just a simple folding knife. He started flicking it open and closed, like it was a nervous tick. The sound of the blade snapping shut echoed in the tiny space of the car. "You nervous, driver?" he asked casually, eyes still on the window. My throat tightened. "Nah, just tired." He smirked, still playing with the knife. "Good, 'cause I don't like nervous people." I wanted to slam the brakes, jump out, and run screaming, but my survival instinct screamed louder, "Keep him calm. Keep driving." So that's what I did. I drove, trying not to lose my shit, every mile stretching longer than the last. And in that moment, I realized something terrifying. I wasn't just giving a ride. I was trapped. The knife clicked open again, then shut. Open, shut. The sound was like a metronome for my fear, ticking away every second I was stuck in that car. I tried to focus on the road, on the glowing yellow lines pulling me forward. But my eyes kept darting to the rearview mirror. His face was mostly in shadow, but every time the blade flashed under the streetlights, I felt my chest tighten. He wasn't stabbing the air, wasn't making threats. He was just playing with it, like a kid fidgeting with a toy. But sometimes that's worse. It meant he was comfortable with it. That knife was like an extension of his hand. Finally, I forced myself to say something. My voice cracked. "Hey, you wanna, maybe, not do that?" He tilted his head, eyes half lidded with suspicion. Then he smirked. "Relax. I'm just passing the time. Passing the time." Jesus. I nodded quickly and looked back at the road, but my pulse wouldn't slow down. Sweat dripped down my back, soaking into the seat. The city lights thinned out as we headed further north. Brick buildings turned into warehouses, warehouses into stretches of empty road. It was quieter out here, darker, and every instinct screamed that I did not want to be alone with this guy on some deserted street. I needed a plan. My mind raced. Could I fake a car problem? Maybe accidentally get a flat tire? But what if he thought I was stalling? What if he pulled the knife on me for real? "Take the next right," he said suddenly, his voice sharp. I obeyed, turning onto a narrow road lined with shuttered shops. The streetlights here barely worked pools of darkness between weak orange bulbs. He leaned forward, closer now. "You got family?" The question hit me like a punch. My throat tightened. Yeah," I said cautiously. He nodded slowly, the knife still flicking open and shut. "Family makes things complicated. Makes you do things you don't want to do. You get that, don't you?" I forced a laugh that sounded more like a cough. "Yeah, totally." Inside, panic swelled. He was talking like a man with nothing left to lose. And those are the most dangerous people alive. Then, without warning, he reached into his hoodie pocket. I flinched so hard I nearly swerved into the curb, but instead of pulling out another weapon, he shoved a crumpled wad of cash onto the seat next to me. "Here," he muttered. For the ride, I stared at the pile of bills. 20s, 50s. It was way more than the trip could ever cost. I don't need that much, man," I stammered. "Take it," he snapped. "You never saw me." My stomach twisted. This wasn't just payment. This was hush money. The air in the car grew heavier, like every breath was borrowed. I thought about the news alert again. The mugshot, the headline, "A man wanted for armed robbery. Dangerous. Do not approach." And now here I was approaching way too close, trapped in a moving coffin with him. I needed a lifeline. Anything. Then, like an answer to a prayer, I saw it. Up ahead, a gas station. Bright lights spilling across the empty street, a little oasis in the darkness. "Mind if I stop for gas?" I asked carefully, trying to keep my tone casual. He didn't answer at first, just flicked the knife open and shut, open and shut. Finally, he muttered, "Make it quick." Relief flooded through me. I flicked on the blinker, heart pounding, pulling into the station. The fluorescent lights felt like salvation. I parked near a pump, hands trembling on the wheel. As I stepped out, my phone buzzed again in my pocket. I didn't dare look, not with his eyes boring into me from the back seat. I forced a smile. "Be right back." Walking toward the pump felt like walking a tightrope. Every step, I could feel his gaze burning into me. I lifted the nozzle, pretended to swipe my card. My mind was racing. Should I run? Should I scream for help? But what if he bolted too? What if he hurt someone else? I stole a glance toward the cashier inside. A young woman, maybe early 20s, scrolling on her phone behind the counter. If I ran in there, could she even help me? The pressure was unbearable. Then I heard the car door open behind me. My stomach flipped. He was getting out. The sound of the back door slamming shut hit me like a gunshot. I froze by the gas pump, hand clenched on the nozzle that wasn't even running. My pulse roared in my ears. He walked around the car slowly, hood up, knife still in his hand. Not waving it, just holding it, like a casual accessory. That somehow made it worse. "You're jumpy," he muttered, as darting to the glowing lights of the gas station. "Relax. I just needed some air." Air, right. With a weapon in his grip. The fluorescent lamps overhead buzzed faintly, the parking lot empty except for an old minivan parked near the air pump. No one else. Just me, him, and the girl inside scrolling her phone. I forced myself to nod. "Yeah, sure, no problem." He looked at me for a long beat, then shoved the knife back into his hoodie pocket. My lungs finally remembered how to breathe. We stood there in silence for a moment, the night air thick between us. Then, almost casually, he asked, "You ever get scared driving strangers around? Like, you never know who's gonna get in your car?" My laugh was hollow. "Yeah, sometimes." He smirked, his eyes narrowing. "Yeah, sometimes you pick up people you really shouldn't." Every muscle in my body screamed run, but my legs were cement. Finally, I swallowed hard and asked, "Where do you need me to take you?" He glanced around again, scanning the lot like he expected cops to materialize any second. Then he leaned in closer, lowering his voice. "Past 8 Mile. Out of the city. You'll get directions." My heart sank. Out of the city. That was the last thing I wanted, to be trapped on empty highways with him in the back seat. I nodded weakly. "Yeah, sure." As we walked back toward the car, I realized this was my chance. I could bolt inside the gas station. The girl at the counter could call 911. But then what if he followed me in? What if he grabbed her too? He opened the back door again, sliding in casually like he owned the place. Before shutting the door, he leaned out and fixed me with a cold stare. "Don't take too long." I stood there, paralyzed, the gas nozzle still in my hand. My brain screamed at me, "Call the cops. Do it now." But my fingers wouldn't move. Instead, I slid the nozzle back into place, climbed into the driver's seat, and forced my hands to stop shaking long enough to grip the wheel. He slouched in the back again, hello, tapping the knife against his leg like a rhythm. As I pulled back onto the road, something inside me shifted. I couldn't keep waiting for luck to save me. If I didn't act soon, this night wasn't going to end well. And as the city lights faded in the rearview mirror, one terrifying thought looped in my head. It was only me, him, and miles of darkness ahead. The city disappeared in the rearview mirror, shrinking into a blur of orange streetlights until it was nothing but blackness behind us. Ahead stretched the highway, endless asphalt lanes cutting through miles of empty night. No cars, no people, just the hum of my engine and the sound of him breathing in the back seat. I'd never felt more alone. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, hood shadowing his face. Keep going, he ordered, voice low but firm. No exits, no stops. I nodded, my throat tight. The speedometer climbed. 70, 75. My hands trembled on the wheel, slick with sweat. The knife was back in his hand, glinting in the dashboard light as he tapped the flat edge against his thigh in a steady rhythm. Tap, tap, tap. Each sound was another nail in the coffin of my sanity. You nervous? He asked suddenly. My mouth was dry. Just tired, he chuckled, a hollow sound. Don't worry, I'm not gonna hurt you, unless you give me a reason. That unless echoed louder than the roar of the tires. Every instinct screamed for me to call 911. But how? His eyes were glued to me, his paranoia sharp as a blade. My phone lay in the cup holder, screen dark, taunting me with the one lifeline I couldn't grab. We drove in silence for miles. The highway was deserted, no headlights ahead, no taillights behind, just us in a bubble of darkness. Finally, he spoke. You know what it's like, right? Working a shit job, living paycheck to paycheck, doing whatever it takes just to survive. His voice had softened, almost conversational. I hesitated, then nodded. Yeah, I get it. Good, he muttered. Then you understand why I had to do what I did. I swallowed. I didn't ask what exactly he did. I didn't want to hear it. But the way he said it, the way his jaw tightened, it was enough. Then, as if reading my thoughts, he added, they'll paint me like a monster. They always do, but they never tell the truth. They never talk about what was taken from me first. I kept my eyes on the road, praying he'd keep talking. Silence was worse, and he did talk, rambling, disjointed, about bosses who screwed him, about debts, about a brother locked up for something he didn't do. His anger filled the car like smoke, but then, mid-rant, he stopped. His eyes locked on the rearview mirror, staring directly at me. You're not recording this, are you? My stomach dropped. What? No, of course not. He leaned closer, knife glinting. You sure? Yes, I swear. Look, man, I'm just a driver. That's it. I don't care what you did. I just want to get you where you're going. He studied me for a moment longer, then leaned back. The knife clicked shut. My lungs released a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding, but relief didn't last. Blue and red lights flickered in the distance behind us. At first, tiny specks, then brighter, closer, a police cruiser. He saw it too. His whole body went rigid, fists clenching. Don't you stop, he hissed. You keep driving. My pulse spiked. The cruiser was gaining. Stay cool, he snapped. Act normal. If they pull us over. He leaned forward, his breath hot on my neck. You say nothing? You don't know me. The lights grew closer. The siren wailed once, a sharp cry that cut through the night. Shit, he muttered, pulling the knife back out. The blade glinted inches from my head. Don't you dare fuck this up. I wanted to scream, to slam the brakes, to wave my arms out the window, but the knife was too close. The cruiser pulled alongside us, pacing my car. The officer inside glanced over, his face illuminated by the flashing lights. For a split second, our eyes met. I wanted to mouth the word help. I wanted to beg, but the cold press of steel against my ribs silenced me. Then, after an eternity, the cruiser sped ahead. Its lights faded into the distance, chasing some other phantom in the night. The man in the back exhaled shakily. See, nothing to worry about. But I knew the truth. The cops hadn't saved me, and the night was far from over. Because now he knew he was almost caught, and a cornered man is the most dangerous kind. The highway stretched endlessly, black as ink, and my headlights carved only a narrow tunnel through the dark. Behind me, the man shifted in his seat, muttering curses under his breath. The knife tapped against his knee like a drumbeat. I was running out of time. Every second felt heavier, like the air inside the car was suffocating me. My options were shrinking. I couldn't keep driving forever. At some point, something had to give. And then, in the rearview mirror, salvation appeared. Another set of headlights. Not just any headlights, the familiar red and blue flicker. A second police cruiser. This time, it wasn't passing by. It was gaining on us. The man noticed instantly. His whole body stiffened. He leaned forward, his face twisted with rage and fear. "Don't stop," he hissed. "If you stop, I swear." He pressed the knife against the back of my seat, close enough that I could feel the pressure against my ribs. My heart pounded like a jackhammer. The cruiser's siren wailed, lights flooding the night. There was no ignoring it now. They wanted me to pull over. I swallowed hard. This was it. Fight or flight. My survival balanced on a knife's edge, literally. "Take the exit," he barked, pointing to the upcoming ramp. The cruiser blared the siren again. My hands trembled on the wheel. For a split second, I considered obeying him, veering off into the darkness. But then I thought about my family, about the fact that if I drove off the main road, no one would ever see me again. I made my choice. I slowed down. "What the fuck are you doing?" he shouted, panic in his voice. The knife pressed harder, digging into the seat. "They'll chase us if I don't stop," I said, forcing my voice to stay steady. "Better to play it cool." He cursed loudly, thrashing in the back. The cruiser was right behind us now, lights strobing across the inside of my car. My palms were slick as I pulled onto the shoulder. The car shuddered to a stop. The silence was unbearable, just my shallow breathing and the faint hum of the engine. "Listen," he whispered, voice trembling now. "You don't say a damn word. You keep your mouth shut, and maybe you walk away from this." The officer's flashlight beam cut through the darkness as he stepped out of the cruiser. Slow, deliberate footsteps approached. The man leaned closer, the knife still poised. "Don't screw me." The knock on my window made me flinch. I rolled it down with shaking hands. "Evening," the officer said, his voice calm but firm. "License and registration." His eyes flicked to the backseat. "Everything all right here?" I hesitated. The man's breath was hot against my ear. The blade pricked my side. This was it. My survival boiled down to a single second, a single decision. And for reasons I'll never fully understand, I looked that cop dead in the eye and nodded. "Yeah," I croaked. "Everything's fine." The officer's gaze lingered. His hand hovered near his holster, then he gave a curt nod. "All right. Drive safe." He walked back to the cruiser. The lights faded. The siren cut off. And just like that, he was gone. Gone. I was alone again. Alone with him. The man in the back exhaled slowly, relief washing over his face. He chuckled darkly. "Smart choice, driver. Real smart." But as I drove back into the endless dark, my hands trembling, my stomach turning, I realized something chilling. I hadn't made a smart choice. I'd made the only choice, and I still don't know if I'll ever forgive myself for it.